After fleeing from Saul, David seeks refuge among the Philistines' enemies at Gath. He pretends to be insane to avoid being considered a threat. Later, he escapes to the cave of Adullam. Also, David's family visits him, and thugs and outcasts join his cause, a group of 400 men. Later, David takes refuge in Moab and makes allies with the Moabites. Remember, his great-grandmother Ruth was from Moab. The prophet Gad shows up and tells David to go back to Judah. David goes back and hides in the forest of Heretz. After this, we read a story about David saving Keilah from the Philistines. David is successful in battle against the Philistines, and we read that Yahweh also protects David from Saul. God tells David that Keilah will betray him to Saul, so David flees to the wilderness of Ziph. Saul can't find David, but Jonathan does. Jonathan and David renew their covenant together. Jonathan says, "You will be king, and my father knows this." David later eludes Saul in the wilderness of Maon, but we read that Saul is breathing down David's neck. David is cornered, but suddenly a messenger arrives with news for Saul about a new Philistine invasion, and Saul leaves immediately, and David is saved. David and his men then hide out at En-gedi. En-gedi has many high cliffs and is full of caves in which David and his men hide. We then read about how David spares Saul's life. David hides in a cave when Saul and his men come to the area. Saul goes into the cave in which David happens to be hiding and takes a dump. David's men want him to kill Saul while his pants are down, but David refuses. After Saul is done pooping, David appears and pleads his case to Saul. He tells Saul that he could have killed him just now, but he refused because of his great respect for him. Saul then declares, "You are more righteous than I am," and he confesses, "I know you will be king." David swears that he will not kill Saul's family when he becomes king, and they go their separate ways. We then read about how David later goes to the area of Maon and of his encounter with Nabal. The chapter opens by mentioning the death of Samuel. David makes his request. He offers Nabal protection, but Nabal's response is, "Who is David? He's just some guy breaking off from his master." Nabal means fool. David and his men strap on their swords and go off to kill every person with Nabal who pisses against the wall, or the mills, saying, "How dare he piss on our wall of protection?" However, Nabal's wife Abigail intercepts David and his men, offers them gifts of food, apologizes for Nabal's foolishness, and pleads with David to not play God by seeking revenge. David relents, and the text says God has prevented David from taking vengeance, and God will establish David's dynasty. It then states that the Lord strikes Nabal dead, and we learn that Nabal was having a drunken party this whole time, and that in the morning, Abigail tells him what David almost did as he was pissing out the wine from the night before. And the text says that Nabal's heart becomes like stone, and he dies a few days later. Abigail then takes over Nabal's wealth and marries David. David later travels to Jeshimon, and we learn that when given the opportunity, David refuses to kill Saul. Again, David and Joab sneak into Saul's camp and steal some of his personal belongings, but David won't let Joab kill Saul. Later, David confronts Abner, saying, "Where were you, Abner? You're the king's bodyguard, but you were fast asleep when someone came to destroy your master." Saul then issues another confession, saying, "I have done wrong. I have been a fool," or Nabal. "Blessed are you, my son David. You will do many great things." And they part in peace again, but it doesn't last.